I mentioned that we're going to go over the different types of the databases that you can use in NextPoint. Pre-production, you're going to be using Discovery, whereas post-production, you'll be using litigation. The Discovery database is primarily what we've been talking about today, where you will be processing, analyzing, filtering, and culling your data down to get what's relevant information while coding for what is privileged, what's not privileged, and things of that nature. You'll also be able to bait stamp the data and produce it, which we'll talk about more in depth about in a moment when we get to the production vocabulary. But once you stamp and produce the data, you can exchange it to opposing counsel. You can exchange it into your litigation suite. And this is where you're going to be doing tasks more so pertaining to preparing for trial and presentation, like reviewing for key issues and themes, preparing for depositions, managing those depositions and transcripts, and then building out case chronologies. So the one thing I also like to point out here, which is kind of interesting to me that I didn't know, but is our bread and butter here at NextPoint, is as it pertains to the litigation suite, is that you can go ahead and present, which is even more important, obviously, now in a virtual environment when we're having these meetings via Zoom. And this is really where the trial presentation services and tools is where NextPoint started. And we've kind of worked our way backwards through the Ediscovery process, which is kind of cool. Again, there are some entire accelerator courses devoted to the litigation suite and presenting and things of that nature. So just wanted to summarize that the two suites, Discovery is just what it sounds like, discovering what information is important and relevant to the case, whereas litigation, this has already been deemed relevant information, and now we have decided what we want. Now all we have to do is decide how we want to frame the narrative and how we want to tell the story at trial. So document review, there's going to be a lot of things that you can do within NextPoint to review documents. You can parse through them. You can assign reviewers to specific folders, saying, I'm going to break up these folders and assign these documents to individuals on our review team. It's going to be a lot of collaborative tools that you have available to you, whether it's sharing specific documents or adding notes, communicating with each other within the platform, or communicating with people outside of the platform via email and taking them to, whether it's an export or if they have access to the database, they will be able to go in and see what it is that you're sharing with them. Running keyword searches and queries to identify what documents that you're looking for, what is going to be part of that review, what you are going to say we don't need to review. You're going to be able to code documents for relevancy and privilege. You can create your own custom coding, which is going to be, I believe that's 2 courses down the line where we're going to be talking about that in account and case organization. And speaking of account and case organization, we will also be organizing ourselves and preparing for production, but that's going to be more so when we have gone through the entire review process and we're ready to produce. So unsurprisingly, we have some more review vocabulary that we're going to go through. So Boolean search, this allows users to combine keyword queries with operators such as and, not, and or to produce more relevant results. For those who say, so Boolean search is how NextPoint operates. And when you're creating searches, you can use these connectors to help identify, make your searches more broad, more specific, whatever it is that you're looking for. And for those people who are saying, I'm not too familiar with Boolean search, I can guarantee you that you're more familiar than you probably think you are. As whenever you run a search on Google, you're running a Boolean search. So it's just kind of intrinsically, sometimes you don't see the ands, nots, and ors, but that's in there as well when you're running those searches. Key terms, You can see down here on the image here, we've got a viewer mode specifically for key terms. And so these are words related to the case or specific issues designated by the law firm and generally having their own field in the database. So you can create your own custom key terms based on the case that you're working on that you think are going to be important for identifying. You can color code them. And whenever you go to this key terms view, you can kind of go through and review these documents really quickly and just see if a document, for example, shoots up, it glows up with a bunch of colors. In all likelihood, that's probably going to be a relevant document that you might want to take a second look at or a second longer to look at because of all of the hits on those key terms that you had set out at the onset. So that's something cool that you're able to do within NextPoint. Email threading, grouping together an email message or email messages that are part of the same discourse. So this is just like if I were to send a communication out to you guys to say, hey, when do we want to schedule our next accelerator training? And then you respond back with times that you're available. And then we go back and forth a couple of times. All of those communications going back and forth are going to be part of that one email thread. Whereas if I were to send out a company-wide memo, but nobody responds to it, it's just like, okay, here's the information that we needed. We don't need to respond to it. That one email is still its own unique individual email thread. Document or email family. So all parts of a group of documents that are connected to each other for purposes of communication. And an example would be an email and its attachments. So if you received an email with 4 attachments, whatever they are, whether it is an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, a Word document, and then maybe another email that was attached to it, all of those attachments, along with that parent email, are going to be considered part of that same family. Redact is to intentionally conceal portions of a document. No, it's not on my screen. Why is there a comma there? I need to fix that. Intentionally conceal portions of a document considered privileged or confidential. There shouldn't be a comma there. But I think we're all familiar with redacting, like if you need to redact information for purposes of anonymity, or if it is like one of my favorite examples to use is Coca-Cola's secret formula. You'd need to redact that information so that it does not get shared. You're able to do that within NextPoint as well. And then bulk coding is the process of coding all members of a group of documents based on the review of only one or a few members of the group. Essentially, this is going to be able to do, instead of reviewing things one by one, you're going to be able to select a subset of documents or a group of documents, and you can code them all at once. You can move them places. You can do a lot of things to a group of documents at once, as opposed to just doing it one at a time, if you choose to do so.